CJ Stroud spoke to the media yesterday. One of the hot topics this week, of course, has been, hey, Texans had improved in their blitz pickup. Had they not headed into this game, old Sethers said that the Chiefs' blitz wasn't as effective as it once was. It was pretty effective versus the Texans, and CJ was asked about the third quarter especially being so bad against the blitz, and then the Texans, what adjustments did they make? I'm sorry I'm going to do this to you, but just so you can have it refreshed in your mind, I've got the third quarter blitzes on here as CJ is talking about it.
Yeah, I think we, talked about some things on the sideline and try to, find a way to calm the storm, and I thought we did a good job at that. I think, teams are going to, try to pressure us some more just because, we showed it on tape. So try to be ready for it and, have plans and, just be, good on what we're doing, and be calm in the chaos because, every game, no teams just keep letting you do the same things. They're going to adjust, and then you have to adjust. So just part of the chess match of football,
So in the blitzes on Sunday night, part of it was being in that environment in Kansas City. It makes it hard to do some of the things that you can do to combat the blitz, especially pre-snap. It makes it harder to operate pre-snap. But if we looked at a couple of them, let's see, CJ versus the blitz here. Which one did I dial up? All right, this is an overload. They don't have enough guys to block this. I think CJ probably more threw that away than threw it errantly. I think he wanted to go with the ball there, but it wasn't going to work out. But if you see to the right, you end up having 4 guys rushing against 3. It's just flat out not going to work out on this day. But one thing to watch, if you look at the play clock, 16 seconds on the play clock there. The thing that I'd like to see is CJ and the offense start to use the snap count more effectively. J.J. Watt had a nice thread on Twitter the other day about just how effective quarterbacks and using their snap count is. And he mentioned a few different things about guys varying it. But really, I think one of the most underutilized and most potent forces in not just football, but in America today is the hard count and the dummy count, when the quarterback just gives you a hut and they're not planning on snapping the ball. But when you see that, if we go to the second one here, when there's time on the clock, imagine right here, and I believe there was time on the clock on this one, a hard count gets that blitz found out. And you've got time to reset, change your protection, tweak the plays, and then the outcome could be a little bit different. CJ didn't have anywhere to go with the ball on this one by the time that free rusher was in his face. If looking from the sideline copy, he very wisely got the hell rid of the ball over the middle of the field. Remember, that was the one people thought there should have been a grounding, but because he had fled to the outside of the pocket and then came back in, there's nothing to do there. But good. And now with the silent count, what you got to do is you can have dummy counts with the silent count, or you can go on 2. So look at Jake Andrews, the center. They're going on 1 here on the silent count. He lifts his head up, and off we go. And I know a lot of times people get frustrated with that, and they wonder, isn't that easy to time? It is easy to time if you're always going on 1. This offense has struggled with pre-snap execution at times, and this is one of the dumbest things. And as a defensive lineman, I used to get pissed off when I was on teams where the offensive line couldn't be trusted to stay on sides, so they were always going on 1, because I know as a defensive lineman how easy that is to exploit that. And I think it's something that it's one of these finer elements that could get improved by the end of the season, especially at home. So over these next couple of weeks, as long as they're getting up to the line of scrimmage with time and they can operate that way, CJ's plenty smart enough to be able to do it. It's a matter of just getting the entire operation and getting the offensive line to hold their water. They've got more veteran guys now with Titus Howard at left guard and Trent Brown in the game. Ariante Ursary isn't a rookie anymore. We'll see. CJ was asked by Sarge about the ability to find calm in the midst of the chaos, and he referenced, the way they teach that in the military. Sarge is a former Army guy, so it's fair for him to ask that. CJ appropriately did not try to put himself on the same level as anybody in the military.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm no veteran or nothing, or Navy SEAL or anything. I love our military, respect to everybody who's serving for us. I feel like I could have did a better job at it, in the calm and the chaos. I got hit a couple times, and that happens. You start to like kind of naturally flinch a little bit and like move around for no reason. But on that specific play, I just seen Woody and just try to make a play. And
So he was talking about the Woody Marks touchdown.
he did a good job of just being instinctive and making them pay for being aggressive. So. Yeah, I mean, I think I could have did a better job on that on Sunday, but it's something that I can learn from and, try to be calm in that because it's not easy, but the better you can do it, the more plays are to be made, especially on third down.
Yeah, and so just to give you a dose of some of the really good things he did do on third down, and I like that he took ownership of needing to improve that element of his game. But here's Stroud on a few of the key third downs in the second half. 3rd and 16, steps up in the pocket, boom. The 3rd and 17, stepped up in the pocket after protection broke down. Jaden Higgins this time wisely knows to actually go for the first down. And then 3rd and 3 on the run. I mean, like some of these things that he's done on the run are really impressive since his return, but also and kind of having that composure and that being the eye in the hurricane and all of that. Let's see. I didn't put the one on where he talked about the actual, whatever. This is relevant. So we talk about being able to come over to the line of scrimmage and make all those checks. And sometimes if the play clock isn't, if you don't have time in the play clock, you can't do the dummy counts. You can't make the adjustments. I did see in that game, including on that touchdown to Woody Marks, CJ had moved Woody over to the left. And they faced a blitz, and CJ got Woody for the touchdown after Woody kind of feinted at blocking the blitzer and then went out onto his route. So they did do some good things versus the blitz, and CJ does do some good things pre-snap and getting guys adjusted. I've seen him tweak the alignments of receivers. Like he's doing all that. It's just getting it at a higher level. And D'Amico talked about the need for a greater sense of urgency. CJ was asked about increasing this sense of urgency.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I think our play calls, aren't short and it can get loud. So, it's sometimes, getting in there, I'm yelling as loud as I can. And, we're super tight in the huddle trying to, hear everything. And sometimes, things just happen and, it sucks because, those sometimes take away big plays or stop momentum. So, it's something we got to get fixed. And, just me trying to communicate as best as I can. But yeah, I think it's not always going to be easy, and how you weather the storm, those things do happen because it is a part of the game, and hopefully you try to eliminate it. But in a way atmospheres when you're motioning like we are and like doing a bunch of shifts and fast motions, like we all just got to be locked into what we're doing and. So yeah. Yeah,
and look, I think the motion, we've talked about this, is that it's harder, it's easier said than done when there's all those things going on and the clock is winding down. And as one of you pointed out, I think my point about that one play was that there was 16 seconds left on the clock. I don't know if you're talking to me or somebody else. But yeah, that is like they do have instances where there is time to do it. So there are plays where they're capable of doing that. I think in some respects, they're still in the intermediate level of operating an offense like this. They're in the remedial level early on in the season. The cherry on top, a lot of this is manipulating the snap count, using the hard counts, all of that. The blitz pickup, if I were to go through and just, as I watched all of the blitzes, I mean, there's a smattering of just offensive linemen getting beat. And, that's a physical issue. That's certainly not a CJ Stroud issue. There were elements where I think CJ could have anticipated the blitz better at times, but there were also, I think, on the sum total of it, there were more instances where I don't think it was CJ's fault. A couple times it was just a bad matchup of a play call versus that blitz, and it just happened that there were nothing but outbreaking routes when there was pressure over the middle, up the middle, right up the gut, and vice versa. So it was an entire operation that just needs to be tweaked and refined. Sometimes I don't know whether that's a blessing or a curse. When there's a bunch of little things, it feels like it's more fixable, but it's still a bunch of little things all over the place. If there's one big, massive thing, you can take care of it. My biggest concern still is that it's just the common denominator with a lot of the offensive struggles this year is that when they face dominant interior defensive linemen, they have a really hard time handling that without everything else falling apart. They try to put their finger in that dam, and there's just everything like leaks spring up everywhere else. Like they double teamed Chris Jones on one play in their 6 offensive lineman package, but that means that Blake Fisher is one-on-one with a defensive end, which is exactly the kind of problem we were trying to avoid when we put Trent Brown at right tackle and Ariante Ersry at left tackle. So, but it has improved. This speaks to the importance of not starting off 0-3, so you can maybe have home field advantage during the playoffs and not having to dig your way out just to get to the wild card game. The home field advantage really, really helps. If you're going to play the Chiefs in the playoffs on the road versus at home, it's just night and day in terms of how easy it is to operate for the offense. This is CJ on forming a connection with his receivers.
I think we've, built rapport, throughout the room. Some of the guys are, I'm still trying to figure them out. And then I think, when I got the concussion, I thought I was getting a connection with some guys I've been thrown to in a minute. And then, kind of had to restart that when I came back. So I think it's going to take more time, with everybody. But I think, we're taking strides every week. And we're just having more conversation and communications, I want them to see how I see it. I want to see how they see it, So I think that connection, that chemistry is getting built every game.
Yeah, and I think Jalen Noel is the first guy I think of with that. I mean, Higgins obviously has been targeted a lot. Jalen Noel, I think there's an element of CJ wanting to really earn guys' trust. Let me adjust Mike Roberts here. Nothing's CJ's fault, Seth. It's all Kaylee. If you can't blame Kaylee, it's the line. If you can't blame the line, it was CJ's neighbor. I don't know. I think it depends on which corner of social media you're on. I think people can have a conversation about CJ Stroud without it having to turn into, no, CJ's a god and he will never be wrong versus, no, CJ's a bum and he's on the offense right now, I think there's plenty of times where it's CJ's fault. It's plenty of times where it's Nick Caley's fault. The thing that I never know in evaluating an offense is exactly what is the offensive coordinator asking the quarterback to do. And is the quarterback A, comfortable doing it? B, is he going along with it and giving an honest effort? Like these things, we just don't know. What happens behind the scenes. And I'm not even speaking about this situation specifically. There's just so many parts. It's like a mechanic trying to diagnose what's wrong with an engine without being able to look under the hood. My God, that's a horrible, just worn out analogy. But it's the one that's sometimes cliched analogies are cliched analogies for a reason. And I don't want to be a mechanic that's trying to just, charge you $4,000 because I see that I can dupe your warranty company into it. Somebody had asked me a question about the receivers getting separation earlier in the route. Yeah, and that's sometimes. Look, I think there's times where guys got jammed up early in the down, and there were times where CJ was looking hot, and either the receivers weren't recognizing blitz and getting their eyes around quickly enough, or they were just getting jammed up at the line of scrimmage. And again, I'm not trying to take the pressure or the blame off of CJ. That's just some of what we saw in the game. And it was also if we look at CJ's performances over the last few weeks, the biggest thing I would say is a positive, and D'Amico has pointed this out a couple times, it's that he knows when to give up on a play. And this sounds like tepid praise, but it's a big part of just being able to operate on this team and what they need right now is that you can't be digging a hole for your team. You've got to be sure you're taking care of the football because the defense is going to take care of their business. And making some of those veteran decisions to throw the ball away or to throw it in the dirt, I think that speaks a little bit to the composure that we're looking for. And it's really just over the next 4 weeks, just how high can they go? Let's see. Need a better center and OC. It's Nick's fault. Am I guilty of this? Tell me if I'm guilty of this. I'm not. I guess I just don't have an appetite for blaming offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator. And there's some things that are systemically being done better this year than they were last year, just fundamentally. The success rate in the run game, like they don't have a good rushing attack, but they also really don't have a bona fide bell cow running back. And at the very least, like if you put Woody Marks or Damian Woody in the backfield last year on that team, it wouldn't look as good as it has so far. And not that it's looked good, objectively good, but it's looked way better than it did last year in terms of negative plays allowed. I think the blitz pickup, or just the simple games pickup, it's a 4-man rush, but there's twists and TE games and everything. They just look fundamentally more sound this year. They're not getting beaten like they were early in the year. You had Juice Scruggs and rookie Ariante Ursary. Those guys got worked pretty hard with some games, and we just haven't seen that as the year has progressed. So it's a first-year offensive coordinator. Everybody on the offense is running a new offense, and for a lot of guys, it's more complex than what they're used to. For CJ, I know that he did a lot of this stuff in college. It's not the same. It's just not the same level of complexity when you're facing NFL defenses and what they're able to do to you and what they're able to scheme up against you. So I feel good. I feel good about this week. Did I have CJ on taking things week by week? I don't have it on here. I'm not worried about this team being complacent. I think the offense feels horrible about themselves, and I think the defense it just wants to taste blood. And I don't worry about them being too cocky going into this game.